Welcome back to Ride and Glide Reviews. Today we're lucky enough to have one of the new models out from Future Motion, the Pint X. It's got the XR specs in the pint form. We're going to put it through the motions, see what it can do out on the trails. We're going to take a really good look at it in here, see all the new design ideas they've come up with, any new features, and we're going to compare it to some of the existing models that Future Motion have already produced. So let's get in close and take a proper look at the Pint X. Initially, what's obvious is that it looks very similar to a one-wheel pint. What Future Motion have done is added more range. To add more range, you have to put a bigger battery in. So the battery has to be housed this end or this end. Controller's here, battery's always at the rear, but now the board is definitely thicker than the pint was. That means the bumpers are different. They're not going to be compatible with the original pint. And the rails are slightly different. So you're not going to have the same rails as you did on the pint. Very similar, but the originals won't fit. Now, what will fit are the fenders. This is a standard pint fender, carbon fiber from Future Motion. This fits on the Pint X. The foot pads are also exactly the same. All the dimensions are the same, the board dimensions are the same. The handle is the same handle, and the tyre is the same tyre as the pint as well. So those similarities, the big difference is that thickness in board, which is going to change the clearance very slightly. I don't think it will alter sort of how hard you're going to be able to go on rough terrain. It's not that much. It looks to be about 10 or 15 mil difference at each end. And obviously you can't have the same rails as the pint. This is a limited edition, one of the first ones that Future Motion released. There was only a small batch, so we got these luminous yellow rails, but the other colour is blue, that it will come in as standard, and then you spec it up yourself like all their boards. So again, like all of Future Motion's models, we've got the LEDs at the front. Like the original pint, we've also got the indicator here, the LED indicator, which tells you roughly how far your battery's gone down, but also whether your front foot pad's engaged or not as well. That's actually really useful information to have when you're riding, so you know if your heel or your toe are taken off and then the motor can cut out. Obviously, I'm assuming you guys know what a one wheel is, because most of you will be watching this video because you're into them. But if you don't, effectively, as you know, it's got one wheel, but as you lean forward, it auto balances itself from front to back. Lean forward more, it takes you forward. Lean back, it brakes or goes back the other way. A really, really clever machine. So one of the clever things that Future Motion have built into this and the other boards that they produce is that the white lights, or the white LEDs at the front, when you're going forward, you've got red at the rear. Then if you start to go backwards, or you go fakie, going back the other way, the lights switch round. So the side would become white and the back then would become red. It's a really useful feature. If you do suddenly go the other way, then people know whether you're going away from them or coming nearer to them. It's a really good safety feature. So looking behind the handle, which comes as standard on these, you can see the motor. That's a 750 watt hub motor, the same as what's on the Pint and also on the XR, but they seem to be able to get more power, different peak powers out of them, but it is the same 750 watt motor that drives the other boards as well. Now, having a bigger battery also allows slightly more power to be taken and used, and can add to torque or to top end speed. So originally, the battery of this board would give you up sort of 5 to 7 miles of range, maybe up to 8 miles of range, depending on how you're riding, how heavy the rider is, all the terrain, things like that. This is now built almost double that. So as we said earlier, it's like the XR spec. So you're kind of getting up to sort of 14, 18 mile range maximum. Again, if you're sort of a heavier rider or you're riding steep hills, rough terrain, that is going to be lower. But the biggest, I wouldn't say complaint, but the biggest issue that people said to us about the Pint itself was that they just wish they had more range. And Future Motion have taken a look at that and addressed it perfectly in the Pint X. So for all those pint riders out there, you will know that you get pushback sort of around 13, 14, 15 miles per hour. That can come in a variety of forms, but it's usually fairly harsh. It kicks the nose of your board up. It's basically saying, stop pushing me so hard or I will turn off. And you should listen to it, otherwise you can end up nosediving and everyone knows what happens there. It could be quite bad. With this board, they've addressed the issue of that because a lot of riders like to ride around sort of 12 to 15 mile an hour, so they've put the maximum speed up to 18 miles per hour. Very similar to the XR again, the XR is 19. I know people go faster than that, but that's the recommended speed before pushback kicks in. This pushback will end up kicking in around 17, 18 miles per hour, or should. We're going to put that to the test. And that will allow you to just cruise slightly faster. That motor's pulling that power from the battery and maybe the controller as well, just giving a bit more speed for those riders that want to be cruising at around 15, 16 mile per hour. So with that bigger battery comes more weight. So with the original Pint, you've got 10 kilos. It's quite a nice lightweight. You get the handle with it, it's easy to carry. This with a bigger battery is 12 kilos. Now that's getting quite near the XR again. The XR is bigger, a similar size battery, but the XR is 12.5 kilos, so it's only 0.5 difference. That is making this fairly heavy, 12 kilos now, another 2 kilos. Still portable, but you don't want to be getting stuck running out of battery on it. But the offset of that is you get twice the range, so you shouldn't get stuck. With that battery, you need to charge it. It's a bigger battery, it's going to take longer. The original Pint was around 2 hours with the standard charger for maximum charge. This is going to be more like 3 hours. You can, however, buy the hypercharger, which is the same as the original Pint, and that'll halve that time to around an hour and a half, making it pretty quick to charge. Even over a lunch break or something like that, you're going to get almost to a full charge out of it. So, similarly to the original Pint, the Pint X also has the app feature, and it has exactly the same ride modes as the original Pint. It just has X after the names of them. So Pacific X, Elevated X, Skyline X as well. And it also has Redwood. For whatever reason, it doesn't have X after it. It also has simple stop. You can turn that on and off from here. So that means when you're going forwards and you brake, rather than letting you go backwards, it drops the tail and allows you to get off easier, especially for beginners. It can be really helpful when learning. So whilst we've got both Pints here, I just wanted to show you how the size is different. So here you can see it's a lot thicker than this profile here. And like we talked about earlier, obviously bigger battery in the rear, probably bigger controller here to handle the power as well, but they had to even it up across the board. So that's where the extra weight's coming from, the battery there, and you get that extra depth, which is also why these bumpers don't fit here, because they've got further to travel up like that. Spoke about the fender earlier, but the fender from the Pint X also fits the Pint and vice versa. We've put the carbon fiber one on because it looks really cool. And now we're going to take it out to see what it can do. We are super, super excited.
What's up everyone, my name's Luke. I'm Riding Glide's Onewheel ambassador, and today I'm going to be putting the Pint X through its paces to see how hard you can shred it. The Onewheel's become my life. I've now got 5 Onewheels myself. I'm sponsored by many different companies pushing these boards to the limits, and I'm so grateful to be where I am. All thanks to the Onewheel. It's an incredible mindfulness weapon, and what you can do on this board is insane, and where the sport is going is incredible. So I'm super stoked to see the latest and greatest board from Future Motion and see what it can do. So we're now out on the Onewheel Pint X to see what it can do on the trails. Now this thing's a little pocket rocket. For me personally, I feel like it's a trail shredder, but also for someone who wants to be in the city and they want to get around super fast on a super sick little board, this thing would be amazing. Because for me, I either ride 2 different ways. I either ride my XR on the streets, just, you know, hit the tricks because it's got that bigger platform, and I do also enjoy my time on the trail. But to be honest, this being so nimble is so fun because you've got all this nimbleness from this tiny little tire that just allows you to shred anywhere. And even on the slick, you can see this is wet ground, but we got a lot of traction. So now going through some sand, you can see how this board has so much potential. It does not lose grip on any terrain. It's a little carving pocket rocket, this thing. Got so much torque, you can hit any line you want. It's so fun. Riding a Pint is just such a fun experience. It's such a small board that it's so maneuverable. Like, I can ride this thing wherever I want, and I know I've got full confidence that this thing's got the power, the range, the torque to do what I want it to do. So you may have noticed I'm now riding without a fender today, and there's for 2 reasons. Number one, when you buy a Onewheel Pint, or any Onewheel, they do not come with a fender because it's a personal thing. Some people want fenders, some people don't. For my style, I'm not really a fender guy because I enjoy seeing that wheel. I think it looks so sick. And also, the reason is because especially if you're going through really thick mud, sometimes your fender may get clogged up. So this is a great way to keep your board looking sick. So one of the things that's amazing about any Onewheel is it allows you to find your freedom, because you can really experience places like you never have before. So one of the things I love about the one wheel is there's no remote. As you can see, I've got both my hands free, and it's the same as all the one wheel models. And it's one of my favorite things about the one wheel. You enter such a flow state because of it. Your hands are free, you forget about everything else, you focus on the moment, and it's amazing for your mental health. And this is why, I mean, you can get a one wheel pint for around 900, and now the Pint X I believe is around 1400. Then you've got the XR around 1700 and the GT 2200. But that is not that much money when you actually think about it. People do use this as a mental health weapon, because you can ride this thing every day, get outside, find new places, and feel alive. So it's now time to see how fast the Pint X can go. Now, let's quickly go back to the one wheel pint. The one wheel pint had pushback around 14 to 15 miles an hour. And as I'm sure many of you one wheel riders know, when the pint pushes back, it pushes back really aggressively, so it makes it a lot harder to get much faster. Now, pushback is a safety feature, but as a rider myself who's ridden a lot, I ride an XR, which is a lot softer pushback, so it's much easier to keep going faster to above 20 miles an hour, which isn't recommended, but it's a hell of a good time. So what we're going to do now is see what speed we're going to get pushback on the Pint X. So we're now going to set up our one wheel Pint X to get the best performance out of this board. Now, I usually ride a Pacific X, which is like the Mission equivalent. If you ride an XR, I love it, it's super flow, but I want to get the best performance out of this board. So I'm now going to turn on Skyline X, which gives me the most amount of power. If you read in the app here, what it says is it goes full pocket rocket in Skyline. You get super responsive and punchy riding, and we're going to be pretty much full aggressive. So let's see what this pint can do. It says it's going to hit 18, but we'll find out. In 3, 2, 1, now. See that acceleration? It's full acceleration without getting a nosedive. So we're in Skyline X, let's see what this pint can do. And that's pushback. Okay, so speed test done on the one wheel Pint X. Now, I'm giving you guys a realistic speed here that I would believe to say is a safe speed on the Pint X. So I'm seriously impressed by the acceleration out of this pint. I'd say it's even slightly faster acceleration than the original pint, because this Pint X can really pull more power out of this bigger battery. So I was in Skyline, crazy fast acceleration as you guys saw, and I hit 17 miles an hour when I felt the pushback come, which is a massive upgrade from the pint, because that would come in around 14. So 17 miles an hour, you guys can cruise around 16 to 17, and that's a great cruising speed on a little pocket rocket to get around the city. So from my side, that's an amazing upgrade from Future Motion. They've done a great job getting more speed out of the pint. And yes, you could probably push it further like I do on my XR, but I wanted to give you guys a realistic top speed that's a safe speed. One of the best things about the one wheel is when you finish riding, how you can be able to carry it around. Let's take a look at an XR. For example, as you can see here, there's no mag handle on the side, but you've got a massive handle here at the front, which makes it super easy to carry. Now, the difference with the Pint and the Pint X, you have no handle at the front, but what Future Motion have done really cleverly is add this magnetic handle called the mag handle. See how it pulls in and out as soon as you let go? So then you'll be able to pick up the board and ride where you want to ride. So one of the things that's amazing about a one wheel is its all-terrain capability. You can ride on sand, but also you can ride through the heather. As you can see, no problem, still got that speed. And this is what's amazing. You can ride anywhere without even thinking about it. So we're now going to look at how maneuverable this pint can be through a single track trail. So you can carve around as much as you want, but then when you get into this part of the trail here, you can see how you can just choose your line, choose exactly where you want to ride. You're not limited by the board, you're limited by your imagination. What I love about the one wheel is how fluid it feels. So we can go along right now, lean forwards to accelerate, lean back to brake, and it's just so smooth. The software that they got in these boards is incredible. Another thing I wanted to touch on was the tyre. So this is a 4.5-inch tyre, where a stock XR is 6.5 inch. It's a lot smaller tyre and it's way more rounded. So from my personal opinion, I really like that. It's super nimble, you can get down really tight terrain, but it's slightly less stable if you're a beginner, but then you do have the simple stock software, so if you are a beginner and you're struggling to dismount, this can really help you. So let's set the scene. You're on your commute and you want to put the brakes on. So in 3, 2, 1, now. So you can see how fast these boards can stop. One of my favorite things about the one wheel is you can turn simple stop off and you can actually ride in reverse like this. And what that goes to show is if you're on a decline or an incline and you want to hold your board dead still, because the motor can go forwards or reverse, it can hold you dead still no matter what, which is amazing. Let's say you're on your commute, you need to go back a meter, you just roll back and it's super easy. So it's one of my favorite things about the Onewheel. So we're now going to attempt a 20% gradient hill. Now I could be in elevated, but to be honest, Skyline or even Pacific, it's more than enough because you've got that power. So that wraps up shredding on the Onewheel Pint X. I've had such an amazing time and I just love it, and it's incredible to see how Future Motion have managed to get XR specs in a pint frame. This thing's a flow state machine. I've had such an amazing time riding it. For me personally, XR is more my vibe because it's bigger, suits my bigger feet more, and also I think I just love that like homemade look, but this thing looks so polished. So for me personally, if you want to get into this Onewheel community, look no further and buy a Pint X. So I'm now with my fellow Onewheel shredder, Jay, to really see what this pint could do with a lighter rider. So obviously Jay's a lot lighter and smaller than me, so you're going to be able to get way more range and speed out of the pint. At least that's the plan. And also we want to see how well the lights work in the night. So I've got my XR with me with the XR lights, and we've also got the Pint X to see how well it does even in the dark. And let's go shred. So that ride was absolutely epic. We have really experienced how amazing these boards are, and a whole different vibe that you experience riding in the dark because of the integrated lights in the Onewheel that make it easy to know where you're going on any terrain. It's now time, as you're seeing on the screen right now, to see how fast we can get this Onewheel pint to go with Jay, who's obviously a lighter rider. Now, as you can see from the speed, Jay didn't manage to get above 17 miles an hour for that long in this speed run, and I believe there's many factors that play into this. Number one, it's because he's at 70% battery. Now obviously that means there's less power in the battery pack to go to the motor, so that will naturally, as the battery goes down more and more, the more your speed is affected. But how we can also see at the beginning of the ride, when Jay was just having a great time and really in a flow state, he managed to hit almost 19 miles an hour on the Pint X, which really goes to show when it's got a full charge, that pushback definitely is coming in a bit later and it's allowing you to reach a higher top speed. So it's absolutely incredible to see this new pushback threshold that they've put in the Pint X that gives the Pint X a whole nother level of speed that you can experience. So we've just finished the range test and I think we can both say we're pretty stoked on the results. So Jay,
definitely
tell us how it went.
I can proudly say that we did 20.9 miles.
So obviously that's incredible for many reasons, but the first reason, this board on the box is it's going to get 12 to 18 miles of range, and this has exceeded expectations and I cannot wait to see what the GT gets. What's also interesting is this has not been an easy ride. Like, we've been pushing this board through the pushback, we've been seeing how fast we can get it to go, going up and down hills, off-road, thick grass, up and down the hills. Obviously it's going to use more battery. So what this board can get in high aggressive riding modes on all terrain, I mean, ESJ is a lighter rider, but I mean, that's incredible results. We've got so many more miles than it promised, and what Onewheel has made here is absolutely incredible, and we're stoked for the future of this sport.
Exactly, and this is a true shredding machine out there, and it's amazing what you can get.
I mean, you cannot fault it. Onewheel, you guys rock.
Okay, studio session done. I've had a little rip.
You pushed it hard.
You pushed it really hard. What do you think about the board?
I think it's really incredible to see how they've managed to, it basically feels like an XR under your feet in like a pint-sized package. It's incredible to see how Future Motion's managed to fit all of that within a pint frame. Is just insane. That higher speed is really nice. You can cruise at a pretty decent speed and get places fast, and it's got that amazing Onewheel flow state that we all love.
So, okay, so pretty good recommendation there. Let me just ask you, put you on the spot for a second. do you prefer it to the XR?
My simple answer is no, for the reason of the way I ride, especially my size. I find the XRs are much better for me because it's got bigger foot pads, the bigger frame. When you're trying to land tricks, you've got more to land on. For me, I would still take the XR. But for someone who doesn't want to spend all the way to the XR, but they want that XR performance, and in some cases, this out of the box, that tyre is more capable in nimble situations.
Okay.
So I reckon XR for me is still that trick beast, but this is like your pocket rocket to get around the city.
Okay, so just to give you an idea, Luke's 6'1", I'm just under 6 foot, I'm about 85 kilos, he's probably more like 90 kilos. So that is our size. He's saying amazing board, probably XR for him. Oh, I might be erring on that as well, I don't know. The feel of it was amazing. The torque on it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed the board. It's such a good product from Future Motion. So thank you, Future Motion, for making another amazing product. Thanks for watching the review. If you liked it, like down below. Subscribe to our channel. If you want any more info, go to www.rideandglide.co.uk. Check Luke's channel out. He's got a million videos on one wheels. If you want to learn anything else about one wheeling, he's the guy to go to. And yeah, give us a call, give us a live chat. Get us, anytime. Once again, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.